You're listening to Podcast PXN,
a video game podcast,
delivering player experience news.
Let's go! What is up, guys, and welcome to Podcast PXN, episode 311. I am one of your hosts, Daniel Prindle, aka Dan is DTM on Twitter, and I am joined over Discord by the resident Embark Glazer and my fellow Spartan, Gage Dempster at Gilbo Biggins.
Ready to glaze, sir.
Glaze on, soldier. And thank you to everyone watching us live and participating in the chat, glazing in the chat, I should say. Just as a reminder, we are live each and every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on youtube.com/@podcastpxn and twitch.tv/podcastpxn as well. The topic of the show this week is our impressions from the Arc Raiders server slam. We may have played a little bit of that this past weekend. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it. Topic of the show, Arc Raiders. We will go into a little bit of stats here before we go into our thoughts. Arc Raiders posted a update on their Twitter page saying, Raiders, thank you all for joining us on the server slam this weekend. Your participation was vital to help us collect information, and our team is working around the clock to fine-tune the game for launch. But we know what you want are the important facts, community stats. So they put a little infographic here. 30 million rounds played. The deadliest Arc was the Rocketeer. Oh my god, the Rocketeer. 2,356,295 players were knocked down by the Rocketeer. Over 96,000 recorders were found. 2,669 Raiders were knocked down while playing the Recorder. The Pharaoh was the most crafted weapon. 77 queens eliminated. Just 77. That's crazy. We'll talk about that. Raiders knocked down by the queen 108,000. Wow. Woo! That queen. And let's see. Total Arc destroyed a total of 58 million. Players knocked down by lightning 26,676. And last but not least, 816,162 rubber duckies were collected.
Dan, you were one of those 26,000 that got down by lightning, huh?
Did I get down by the lightning? I don't remember getting...
Why am I imagining you crashing out after getting struck by lightning? Maybe...
No, I was just freaking out from the lightning, because I'm like...
Okay,
there's
you're right.
lightning on here? No, I don't think I got
right.
down by it, though. Yeah. I should have. Also, a little quick ad here. The Steam peak concurrent count for this test was up to 189,668 players. Insane.
Big numbers for just one platform.
Yes, it was. One platform, indeed. So, before we get into some of the other stuff I have here, let's go into our thoughts on the server slam, Gauge. What are we loving from Arc Raiders, and what are we hating from Arc Raiders? Do we want to start with the positives or the negatives?
I don't have any negatives, so let's start with the positives. I was thinking about this at work, getting ready for this episode throughout the week, and I really think that for me personally, Arc Raiders is kind of like a huge shot in the arm for like not only just the extraction genre, but for me personally, kind of gaming in general. And I haven't brought this up on the show, but I've mentioned this a few times before, where it's like I just feel like a little bit kind of going through the more of the same kind of with a lot of these games. Like I know we were talking about Borderlands 4 and stuff like that, where it's like, did I fall for it again? Like, is this kind of, did I really need to buy this? I've been feeling that way about a lot of games lately, and Arc Raiders, obviously we tried the tech test too. We all really loved it. playing the server slam was really refreshing because it's like, yeah, no, I did like it as much as I thought I liked it, and it just feels, like I said, like a splash of cold water in the face, where everything about it, the game design seems so focused and so different from the rest of the industry when we talk about these games where it's like studios chasing trends and all this stuff. Like, I don't know, man. Arc Raiders feels like it's just so focused in its vision, and the execution just happens to match it on every single front. I'm curious if I want to get into specifics about what I love. Let's talk about sound design. Did you realize, Dan? Because I just kind of thought about it after the tech test ended. There's no hit markers in this game, and yet I didn't realize that as I was playing it, because the sound design and the visuals feedback that you get while you're playing it is so precise that, like, I didn't realize until Sunday night, where I'm like, oh yeah, there's no visual hit markers in this game at all, and it doesn't need it. You're just paying attention, and you're looking for either the blue sparks coming off of a shield and that sound of the crack of the shield, or you're listening and looking for like the red mist that comes when and like, how many competitive, well, quote unquote competitive, it's a PvP game, shooters, like, can you even do that in and still be effective? Not let alone not even have an option for, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just from the sound design, it's already doing something incredibly unique where it sets itself apart from other games in the genre. But I'm curious to hear what some of your highlights were from the game.
Yeah. The sound design is pretty insane. And like, to kind of coincide with that a little bit, the proximity chat, specifically when I was playing solo, because like when we were playing squads, it was mainly us talking, and then, you know, if I got downed, I would get pissed off and shoot something into the world with proximity chat. But I noticed it more when I was playing solo, that like doing proximity chat was like such an imperative experience for a game like this, because it gets so tense and like so crazy that a little bit of that proximity chat where people are like high energy and like, you know, not tense, but like they're like freaking out, and they're like, oh my god, no, please don't shoot me. And then you're like, oh, do I not shoot them, or should I shoot them? Because like, if I don't shoot them and then they shoot me, then I'm gonna lose everything. So it's like, I ran into a lot of that playing solo, especially since you don't have that extra person or two people there to back you up if something does go bad. And it was actually kind of funny because I was extracting on one specific instance, and there was a total of 3 other players that were trying to extract at the same location, and I was there also. And I roll up on them, and they're all like kind of like freaking out with each other, and one of them starts shooting. So I was like, okay, this one started shooting, so I shoot the dude who started shooting. He goes down, and obviously he's dead, because it's mainly solos, which is another thing I love about this game, that when you play solo, it tries to match you with solo players. Now it's not 100%, but for the most part.
What was your experience with that, though? Because I only played a few rounds of solo, and I noticed that maybe the 3 or I want to say I played like 5 games solo this weekend. I didn't come across a single 3-stack personally.
Yeah. Yes.
So whatever they're doing a very good job of doing that weighted thing like you're talking about. Because there is no 1-stack matchmaking. It's just
right.
We'll try and prioritize you. But from what I've played, my experience, they do a really good job at that.
Yes, agreed. I think that was one of the highlights for me as well. But so I killed the first guy, and then the second guy I continued shooting, because I'm like, I'm shooting, these guys are going to shoot me because I'm shooting. Right. So I started killing the second guy, and without realizing it, the third guy had gone inside and started on the computer, started typing the thing to extract. And I was like, well, shit. So I jumped into the extraction thing, and then I started to try to shoot him, and he had just finished typing on the thing as I'm starting to shoot at him, and I didn't kill him. and the screen goes black and we go out or whatever. But he was talking the whole time because he was like, no, please don't shoot. So then I was like, I feel kind of bad now because I was shooting at him and he was extracting. So I sent him a message after, and he's like, oh yeah, let's squat up. And we squatted up for a little bit, even, which that was another cool little takeaway from that, having an experience like that, and then going on another mission with this random player, and he was like, oh yeah, I get it once I explained everything. But so yeah, like the community engagement from proximity chat kind of extrapolates what a lot of the things that I love about this game, and to be honest, is one of the problems that I had with Marathon when we played the test all those months ago as well, was that it didn't have that, and there didn't feel that connection to the session that you were in.
Right. I think something that has something to do with the vibe of those games, right? Where it's like Marathon just feels like it's kind of so brooding and like dark, and maybe I'm reading too much into it, but like I feel like with Arc Raiders, it's like it's still super immersive. It still makes sense. I don't feel like there's a contradiction in the fact that I'm going into this world and looting stuff and killing other players, but there is this kind of like semi-hopeful retro sci-fi look to it, where it's like it feels a bit lighter, even though it is a competitive PvP VE game, where I did have a couple of experiences with talking with people with group chat, and I did have a couple of de-escalations in this game where it's like, even if that's the exception to the rule, because that's a lot of criticism I hear from people that don't like extraction shooters, is that yeah, they'll say all these things that could happen, but really every time you see players you fight, and it's like, yeah, if that happens most of the time and that bugs you, that's fine. But for me, I look at it the opposite way, where it's like the fact that there's even a chance that like you can get into a Mexican standoff and you guys just de-escalate it with words. Not a lot of genres of games allow that to happen, right? That's not going to happen on Battlefield if you're trying to capture C point. Like you and the enemy team aren't just going to come to a conclusion and let one person cap it, right? So the fact that it can happen at all in extraction genres is kind of cool. And I've noticed that I can really only speak to, a weekend of Marathon, but 300 hours of Tarkov, is that it feels like Arc Raiders is setting itself up to be a game that, again, friendlier is the wrong word, because It is still very competitive, and most of the fights you get into, you will have to take out the other team, but there's just a vibe to it, you know what I mean? That's a little bit different from the rest, especially from Marathon, now that you bring it up, because Marathon feels like it's supposed to be very heavy metal and intense.
Yeah. And just what amazes me as well with this game, which obviously if anyone watched our Marathon versus Arc Raiders episode that we did comparing the two back in May, I believe, when both of those were going on, it's crazy to me how limited this server slam test was in terms of content. And yet we spent way more time in this than we did in the first one. And like we enjoyed the hell out of the first one, but like we spent even more time in this one. We played every single night of the server slam weekend, and it was just insanely fun. Like
until the last moment. Not only did we play every night, but we were intentionally pushing it, squeezing every last drop out of it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you bring that up, because that was one of the criticisms I saw, was that people thought that there wasn't enough content for a beta. And I think this is where you can kind of get into the semantics of it. I mean, they did intentionally call it a server slam, so I'm giving them a bit of leeway in that I think this probably was designed just for capacity reasons. I think there's totally a plausible plot line in my head where it's like they got way more attention than they were expecting during Tech Test 2 and like the hype that was around the game. And so, I think it's totally possible they weren't planning on doing another sort of thing, and then they realized, shit, we need to, we don't want this game to have that first weekend that so many games have, where it's down the first weekend, and that's what the news cycle is. So I think that even though compared to Tech Test 2, which was the weekend that me, you, and Christian played months ago, which had way more content, it had a lot of content.
Yes.
I don't blame them for scaling back on this one, especially so close to launch. It all feels like the game design. It all feels very intentional to me, where it's like the game is so close. We don't want people getting ahead. We don't want people seeing the quests that are around the corner, but we do want to get as many people in here as possible. So let's do, a server slam, which is what it was.
Yeah, I would much rather them doing that anyways, because like I'd rather have more things to explore and be curious about on day one when you're playing when the game launches. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's great that they didn't even include those maps that they already did, because I think it's going to be long enough that like I've already forgotten the specific routes of those other maps. I can remember visually what they look like and what they feel like. But once the game launches and we're back in there, I don't think people will have that much of an advantage because it's been so long since you've played, the other two maps that were available. There's something else I want to say for a huge highlight to this game, and I think you're either going to think that this is blasphemous or you're going to get what I'm saying, which is that the weapon pool in this game kind of reminded me a little bit of like, I was going to say old school, but Infinite does as well, but it kind of reminded me of Halo, where it's like, it's less about the quantity and like how many different types of weapons there are, and more so that every weapon feels like it fills a specific purpose. I'm really, really impressed with the weapon pool in this game and the weapon design. Not only do all the weapons look perfectly retro sci-fi in terms of like, yeah, that looks like an AR, and I don't really need to squint my eyes to see it, but it also looks like it's just kind of built out of these random objects, and it's kind of the visual style is really cool too, but like I said, like the fact that it's like there's one 3-round burst assault rifle, there's one super slow firing one that takes a really long time to reload, there's one fast one, but it's tap fire. Like it has such an interesting sort of like, yeah, it doesn't have 8 handguns, it only has 3, and they all fill a very specific sort of role in combat. And so when I was playing it, that was another thing I realized, where I'm like, this kind of, even though it's not an arena shooter and you can't just pick up things willy-nilly, it feels kind of like that old school Halo weapon sandbox, where it's like, if I'm trying to do a specific thing, I'm gonna need a specific loadout. Okay. And so that was, and being a fan of old school Halo, like, because I got that feeling, like it was just adding to the enjoyment even more, where I'm like, it feels like they're just taking a lot of like lessons that studios have learned over the years, and like knowing exactly when to apply the results of those into this game. And so the weapon variety is what stood out to me, where I'm like, man, every gun feels so intentional.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like, that's a great comparison. I hadn't thought of that comparison, but that's great. Yeah, I think, in my opinion, and I think yours as well, as after you just said, I think that having a very focused, select number of guns that all have their own purpose and feel very different from one another makes the experience a lot more interesting. Like, rather than having 10 different sniper rifles and you're like, okay, well, what's really the difference between this sniper rifle and this? What, like, it gets a little bit too like ridiculous at that point. It gets kind of silly, and it doesn't mean as much when you get the 12th sniper and you're like, well, what's the difference between this 12th sniper and the 10th one, And also, like, the weapon attachments in Arc Raiders makes a big difference, as well as the level of your gun. Like, the level of your gun is like insanely huge, as I quickly found out when I picked up was it the 3-round burst level 4 weapon?
Right.
And I was like, this thing is fucking insane. Like, I'm fucking killing everything I'm shooting at right now. And I just did not want to lose that gun. Unfortunately, I did lose that gun, but that shit happens. But yeah, it is insane, and definitely something to applaud them for, doing a much more focused approach with the guns that feel like each one has its own purpose.
And I want to jump in on something else that you just said that kind of reminded me, where it's like, and we'll get into this later when we talk about the 4 changes they're making.
Yeah.
They have such a, out of the gate, without needing to do a huge sort of like launch and then get a bunch of feedback and change. Like, they're so proactive with their balancing, where it's like, you were just mentioning that how weapons can have different tiers. You can find most guns are, you find them in their tier 1, and then you can find a tier 4 version of the gun, which visually looks very similar. Although I did notice that there are visual differences. The newer ones are a lot clean, and instead of like wooden rusted parts on it, there'll be just like manufactured synthetic silver, which is very cool. Small detail that they did not have to do. But what's cool about this tier, versus a tier 1 and a tier 4 weapon is that they don't change the damage of these weapons at all. Like, the game is so well thought out and balanced where it's like all it does for most guns that I noticed when I was comparing stats is like it increases the reload speed. Some of the guns, it increases the magazine size slightly. But it does not change the inherent stats of like the accuracy or the damage. So if you want to change those things, I don't know that you can change damage on any of the weapons. Actually, I think it's only just you can make it a little bit easier to control. You can lower the dispersion of the bullets. You can increase the magazine size. You can do all this stuff, but like at the end of the day, it's still up to you to get those shots on target, which is a very big contrast to other extraction shooters like Tarkov, where you can kind of go in and get, oh, here's a 80 round drum mag for your AR, and also here's the best bullets in the game that can penetrate shields 100% and all this stuff. Like, this game doesn't have any of that. It's very much like none of these attachments or anything affect the weapons, but at the same time they do. Like you were saying, right. You get a tier 4 weapon and you're like, your personal ability to achieve more has increased, but the actual damage output of the weapon hasn't, right. Which is such an interesting and very unique thing that they're doing. This game just feels like a game where the studio is actually playing it. And I know every studio does play their game. There is QA that happens at every studio. I'm not trying to say that it doesn't happen, but it feels like this feels like a game that is so well thought out that it's like, can these guys just not stop playing it? Are they playing it on the weekend? Are they like, just so focused in this game? Because that's what this, we're not seeing the finished product yet technically, but like even Tech Test 2, when I was playing it, like we all kind of agreed like that they could launch it now. So this game to me, I'm really getting the vibe that these people truly love the game that they're making on. And that might be parasocial and that might be totally unfounded, but that's the vibe I'm getting from this when I'm playing this. And the weapons and the attachments, when you said that, I immediately thought of that because they're so well thought out and not balanced like how you typically see in other video games.
For sure. Yep. Yeah, it's crazy how much the handling and stuff like that actually impacts the performance of the gun.
Right.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll wait on that. But do you have any more positives before I talk about? I don't think you have any negatives, but I have 2 negatives.
Okay.
Do you have any
positives? Actually, I do have a negative. Positives. I think the loot pool is, speaking as somebody who, again, has put maybe 300-400 hours into Tarkov. The loot pool I noticed is a lot more, and I play a little bit of Marathon too, and I think you and I had the same problem with Marathon. In Arc Raiders, the loot pool I think is a much more accessible and easy to understand earlier than other extraction shooters that I've played. Again, the main comparison being Tarkov, but even when I think about Marathon, that's a victim of Marathon's art style, where it's like I really don't know what any of this stuff is or what it means. Everything looks kind of made up and not real, so I have no kind of basis for reality. But when you find like a battery pack in Arc Raiders and it looks like, right, 4 AAAs inside of a green sleeve, you're like, okay, I kind of have a general reference for the rarity of that in real life, therefore I kind of have an idea of what this would be used for. And even for the sort of sci-fi fake stuff in Arc Raiders, it felt like it took me not a lot of time at all to kind of get into the loop of what I should be looking for, what things can be broken down into what. And then kind of related to that, I think the crafting system is very streamlined. It's exactly as deep as it needs to be without being so complex, where it's like in Tarkov, you got to find literal nuts and bolts to make sure that you can attach. You can't just find a scope and a gun. You've got to find like, oh, this is the plate that attaches to the gun, and this is the base for the scope that you have to attach to that plate, and then now you can attach the scope. Like, Arc Raiders kind of has that perfect balance of, like, there is a lot of loot, and there is a lot of loot that you need for specific things, but it's not so fucking, intense and laborious that you kind of get frustrated with it. It's a very perfect balance, which is a recurring theme for this game for me. And why I say it's so impressive is that it seems like a lot of this stuff is right in that sweet spot in between too casual and too intense.
Yeah.
So the loot pool is another big one for me. We already talked about sound design. Visuals, obviously, the retro sci-fi style is great.
The skill tree is really interesting as well, because like you have to like really analyze the skill tree at a high level to see like, okay, where do I want to be? Because there's certain attributes later in the 3 skill tree deviations that have like important abilities, like for instance, the over encumbrance. You have less over encumbrance, or can hold more weight, like stuff like that. That's like meaningful stuff when you're actually playing the game on a pace, or moment to moment gameplay. There, like these things are very important to your character to like improve your odds of successful exfiltration with everything that you want to exfil with. So like, yeah, definitely the skill tree is very cool for like the long term outlook of the game as well.
Yeah, I've already kind of like come out of the server slam being like, okay, I didn't really notice the points that I put into this tree, or I think in the main game I can sacrifice those and I'm gonna focus this so I can get to this one, because it is kind of like, it's not like just moving up a skill tree. There's a lot of those really impactful passes that you were talking about. They not only require you to get to them, but a lot of them I noticed it's like, no, you got to put in at least 15 points somewhere in this tree to even unlock this. So there is definitely a meta sort of strategy to deciding which skills you think are going to be useful or not. I've already looked at the skill tree and kind of been like, okay, when the game launches, I think I'm going to go full survival, just because I think those skills will affect the game more. I do think this is not a complaint for me. This is not one of my negatives because it hasn't happened yet. But I think with their whole not doing mandatory wipes thing, which on the surface I think is a very positive step, and I'm happy that they're gonna start with that. I do think the skill tree might be one of those issues that becomes a crack in the shield, where I don't know how it's gonna work. And can you just keep leveling up forever and ever and ever and sort of max out your skill tree? And then either A, become really, really overpowered, or B, kind of lose that fun sense of grind. I think, yeah, I'm curious to see how that's going to work with the no mandatory wipes. I'm wondering what they have in store for that. But as of right now, I have only positive things to say about the skill tree. I think it's very, very cool. Do you have another positive, or are we getting into negatives?
Maybe expand the skill tree in future updates.
Add a 4th branch that affects maybe loot or durability or something. Absolutely, yeah. That could be it.
No, that's all the positives that I had. Do you want to go over your negative that you had?
I would love to if I didn't just immediately forget it.
No, that's okay.
So I will say another one of them is I think the in-game, when you are controlling your character in the raid, I think the UI there is perfect. I think the UI outside of raid, when you are in your lobby and doing your traders and doing your workbenches, it's tough because compared to what exists, and you won't know this because you haven't played Tarkov, it's so much smoother. But it still feels like there's just a little bit of either too much going on or not quite enough information on the screen. Like, I was thinking about the inventory screen, right, where you have your loadout and then you're looking at your stash. It is kind of weird to me that your stash is only like 4 tiles by like 16. Like, it's a very slim column from top to bottom on your screen, where it's like, I almost kind of wish, maybe not another tab, because I think that's kind of where the problem stems from, but like, if there was a button to press where now your inventory side becomes smaller and your stash kind of comes out, so that you can, when you're doing those big sort of macro, I'm going to sell a bunch of stuff, or I'm going to break a bunch of stuff down, you can kind of have a little bit more of the screen dedicated to your stash, and you can kind of flip things around. And then, honestly, I would love to see something where it kind of feels like a desktop sometimes, where you're stacking screens on top of each other, and if you want to get back to change your trader, you have to back. If you went from trader to workshop to inventory, you have to back out of inventory into workshop, back out of workshop into trader, change your trade. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would be kind of cool if along the top it was just you could flip through everything
through
and
'em.
you could just immediately click from one thing to the next. It's very, very minor, and I still was able to do everything I wanted to do. It just felt like it was taking like maybe a couple seconds too long.
Yeah.
So while I think for the other complaint I had, that's kind of the one that stuck out to me was the pacing slowed down a little bit when you were doing a lot of inventory management.
I agree with that, and especially on controller as well, because everything's a little bit slower on controller. And
Right.
I do have one complaint that I have with the in-game UI, which I know we talked about when we were playing, and that is when you're looting something and you're on the left-hand side of the screen looting what you want out to go into the right-hand side, which is your backpack. There needs to be like you hit left trigger to go to the left side, right trigger to go to the right side for controller, because you're basically having to drag your cursor from here all the way to here to make an action happen, instead of just like hitting left trigger and it instantly takes you over here. Because like I spent so much time dragging that cursor over every single time, and it would be so much quicker to just be able to go do and then just drag it over like it. So that was my one complaint of the UI specifically. But I had two other issues that I had, which one was interesting because it was divisive between me, you, and Christian. I think you and Christian fell on the same side on this, but I did not like, and I think that this also was the case with the first test as well, which I understand the reasoning. But anyways, the arc difficulty and the aggressiveness of the arcs, specifically the drones, because those are the ones that we're encountering most of the time. Like they're the ones that are hovering around and always there, because for fuck's sakes, it seems like every single fucking time I'm getting spotted by a fucking drone, and I'm like, I don't know how I'm being spotted. I'm fucking 7.2 miles away from this drone, and it hones in on me. It's like, and then it's on me, and then I got fucking shots on me, and so that was very frustrating. And then, you know, that's the aggressiveness part of it, where it's like honing you out, and then the difficulty of them on top of that was very frustrating, because like it takes a lot of shots to take these things down. They don't go down easily. However, I will say, when I got that level 4 fucking gun, they fucking started dropping like flies. So to your credit, Gage, you even said that when we were playing. You're like, I wonder if they're doing that because, you know, when you get your upgraded gear and stuff like that, it's going to be a much more satisfying experience because you have better gear down the road. But yeah, we'll talk about what they're doing with that here in a little bit as well. Which
kind of harkens back to what I was saying, where it's like finding that perfect balance of what to do and what not to do. Yeah. I fell on the other side of that argument, only for the fact that in a game like Tarkov, the scavs, was like you have like you're loading in and you've got your PMCs, which are your players, and they spawn all around the map, and then you've got your scavs, which are your AI controlled bots, which would be the equivalent of like the arcs in this game. In Tarkov, the scavs are completely negligible, and really the only purpose they serve in that sandbox is kind of like as an alarm system, where if you hang around an area too much, the scavs are going to start shooting at you, and now players can just hear shots going on. That's really all that it is. And like when you get really good at that game, you know exactly how long you can sort of take shots before they start getting accurate. So like it gets to a point where when you are so focused and you're trying to complete quests in Tarkov, that like me and my friend that would play it, you could just completely ignore them and like not pay attention to them at all, and just kind of beeline for hot spots or doing the things you need to do. So for me, playing Arc Raiders and really having to think of it, like there's specifically a fight that comes out in my head where I think we were in hydroponics, and you were separated from us and you got jumped by somebody. You got downed, and Christian and I were pushing up, and we were keeping pressure on this guy. We're firing at him, and I heard like one or two drones. Like I heard them aggro to me, and so we're shooting at this one guy. We're taking cover behind like this little ridge, this little hill, and I hear the drones coming up. And I say to Christian, I'm like, all right, let's like I say something like, let's turn and focus the arcs, and we both turn around, and we beam these arcs while this guy is doing whatever. He's either reloading or he's shielding, but we turn around and we both focus the same ones and we drop them immediately. And then we both, like, without saying anything, turn back and put the pressure back on the guy. And I'm like, that's such a cool moment of like emergent gameplay where it's like you have to focus, you have to pay attention to these things because they can't just be ignored. They can't just be cast aside. They are deadly. And so I worry that what makes this game special in those moments where you're sneaking around and you're trying to decide whether or not it's worth it to push this building, if you balance it too far the other way, and if you lower them and they're not a threat, then it just really does become a big sort of 3v3 deathmatch, and that just becomes, you know, third person the finals kind of. Right. But yeah, we'll talk about later what they did, because I think they thought of something that I didn't even think of, even though I've been playing video games for like my entire life. And it's funny because yeah, we were arguing about lower the difficulty of them or don't lower the difficulty of them or XYZ, and we'll see what they ended up doing, which I think is very smart.
For sure. And my last complaint is, I say this lovingly, but it's a very small, minor complaint. Like I understand the people that are upset about this and like think that it's even bigger deal than what I'm going to say. I don't think it's a massive deal specifically for this game, because I don't think that this game focuses on this, and that is the AI voices in the game. Because I think there's not, I don't load up Arc Raiders and then instantly say, man, I'm excited to play the story. Like, I'll be honest, every single one of those cutscenes in the server slam, I was like, okay, I'm not connecting with this. It's not really, that's not why I'm playing this game. Like, I don't even know what kind of story, if there is one, necessarily. Maybe I'm sure there is, but like, this really is a nothing burger for me, because the actual gameplay, what it actually is why I'm actually enjoying it. So yeah, it does suck that they didn't hire real people to voice these people. So that's why it's a minor complaint for me.
I will say, in the interest of fairness, they haven't confirmed that they're AI voices, but they did do the same thing they did do that with the finals, and so I think it's probably likely that they are AI voices. I will say, at least in terms of like how little dialogue there is in the game, I didn't even really notice that until people started talking about it on Twitter. And
yes,
again, I looked into it. It's not confirmed, but like, yeah, there's probably a good chance that it is true, and it does suck. It's one of those like things where it's a very small thing, but it could have been easily avoided. I feel like they could have just found even just some spirited. I'm pretty sure I said the same thing with the finals. Like, just find some spirited employees that really like it, that really like the game, and get them in a booth and record something. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be Troy Baker or Nolan North. Yeah, that does suck if that is in fact true, which again, likely it is, but a very small unforced error. I wish I could remember what the main complaint was. It was something to do with the moment to moment gameplay, but I can't remember. Oh, okay, and I will say something that I'm seeing online that I think is absolutely ridiculous. People saying there needs to be a first person mode because the third person mode is not competitive enough. It allows for peeking around corners. And I think this is my problem with gamers sometimes, is that they think something through on paper, and even though the equation is right on paper, sometimes it doesn't actually work like that. So Arc Raiders is third person. You absolutely can hide your body completely and peek around a corner. And there were times when we did that to scout out areas. But I really do not feel that factors into I do not feel for 1 second that has dictated us winning or losing a fight. I feel like that is just it's no different than playing Gears of War and clicking into cover and
Yeah.
using the camera to look around. Like, I don't think it weighs in as much as people think it does. And I do really feel like, and I'm not just saying this because I'm the third person Sigma, and I think there's there's not enough third person shooters out there. I do think that's true. But I think the third person really adds to the immersiveness and the cinematic feeling of this game. I think if this game was first person, it would be much less interesting and much less unique. Like we said this before, like you can tell there's a lot of ex-DICE people at Embark. The third person
Battlefront.
movement and shooting in this game, it feels exactly like Battlefront. You can tell that there's people that and it's not even the same engine, right? So you can't even use that excuse where it's like, oh, it's just the same code. It's like, no. They had to intentionally make this feel like that. So like even when you drop down a little bit too much and your character does this cool little animation where it looks like he rolls his ankles and he falls to his knees for a quick second, there's so many little animations and the fluidity and the animation blending where I think that if this game was first person, it would not be standing out as much, honestly. So I wanted to push back on that. I saw that online where it's like, at least put in a separate playlist, and I'm like, I don't think it needs it at all.
Here's where I agree with you 100% on everything you just said, but like I don't think it would necessarily be bad to have an option for people if they want to switch to first person, because here's my logic. Because going the other way where this is a third person game and just giving people first person option, the people playing in first person aren't going to have an advantage over the third person players. They're
if
actually
anything,
going
they
to be
have
at
a
a
slight disadvantage.
Exactly.
Yeah, fair enough.
If it was the other way around, then I would be like, okay, no, that's not going to work. But like this way, I mean, if it's just an option, I think that would be okay.
Now, I did see something, and I think for those people, I would say do not hold your breath, because I did see an interview with one of the. It was either an executive producer or it was a technical artist, but they were saying like they're not even really looking into a first-person mode right now,
Which makes sense.
because they said a lot of the reason that the game is so well optimized actually comes from the fact that they don't need to have a lot of separate sets of assets loading in or not loading in, depending on whether players are playing first person or third person. They're talking about the science of it and having to do separate animations for like your hands and different assets. And they're saying like, oh yeah, every asset in the game in the world would need like a new high res version of that for people that are playing in first person.
Yep.
So they're pretty much saying that like a lot of the stuff, the reason why the game feels so good compared to other Unreal Engine 5 titles is like they took out as many variables as possible. So I actually agree with you. I've come around to see what you're saying, and I'm like, yeah, if somebody else wants to kind of tie one hand around their back, that's totally fine by me.
Right.
I don't think they will. I wouldn't play it in first person just because I think the game works so well in third. But
Agreed.
that is true. Yeah, it would not be game breaking if they did add a separate option for those types of people for sure.
Very interesting. Yeah, I didn't even think about the first person, because you're much closer to the action. You're going to need higher res textures and all of that kind of good stuff.
Right, because it's not even like over the shoulder third person. Like the camera's pretty far away from your character, so you'd have to really up the textures on everything.
For sure. One thing.
I remember my my negative.
Oh,
sorry, I gotta jump in just because it's gonna slip away again.
Jump in.
I did notice a slight. And I think slight's being generous because I noticed it right away. I noticed a visual downgrade between this Server Slam and Tech Test 2, specifically with volumetric fog effects and global illumination. I'm guessing they probably did that for people playing on lower end systems, because like we all said, this game, and that actually we didn't really talk about that today in terms of the things we liked. This is an Unreal Engine 5 game and it runs very well. In fact, I would say it runs butter smooth. With that being said, I noticed a significant, maybe too much the other way, but I noticed a moderate sort of downgrade in visuals. I did go in later, I think on the second day of the beta, and like sort of max out my settings, and I still stayed at my lock solid 120 hertz, and that was fine. And the game looked a little bit better, but I do, when I think back to the first day of us playing Tech Test 2, I remember specifically me and Christian, there being a lot of wows being thrown around, and like this game feels so like immersive in the fog, and that was the big thing. The fog was missing from the dam. I remember in the first Tech Test, depending on the time of day that you'd get the raid at, especially in hydroponics, there'd be like this thin blanket of fog kind of covering everything, and the global illumination peeking through the trees. So that did get dialed back in favor of performance, which is hard to argue against because more people can play, which is a good thing. But I would like to see them maybe turn the dial back a little bit the other way for full release, but we'll see how they do that.
Well, I might have some good news for you, but one more thing real quick. I forgot to say this in the positives. The nuclear blasts that start happening at the end of the match, those are insane. That's awesome. Like,
how did you get to see that, Dan? How did you get to see the end, the nuke at the end? Tell everybody how you got to see that.
All right. Well, I mean, to be fair, I was told by Christian,
a certain teammate who was left behind.
I was told by Christian, friend of the show, former co-host, welcome back anytime, that I opened the hatch too soon. I did not open the hatch too soon. I should have went in immediately. I didn't realize. I thought my logic, and I had never used the hatch key, mind you. I followed you guys into it before. I've never used it myself. My logic was I unlock it, and then as soon as the first person goes in, then the timer starts. So I opened it, stood there for a few seconds, like waiting. I'm like, oh, I'll wait a little bit before Gage gets here so I don't start the timer. That's what I was thinking in my head, not knowing that the timer starts as soon as it unlocks. So my fault wasn't opening it as soon as I did. My fault was not going in as soon as I opened it, because there would have been plenty of time for you to get in, because you were waiting on Christian's animation to finish and you couldn't get in, obviously. So that was my fault. I 100% acknowledge that. I did not realize that. That's on me. I'll know for the next time.
I want to just acknowledge the cute X Silk in the chat. You left a few comments, but I'll respond to your most recent one. The issue is new games with Unreal Engine 5 games aren't optimized in all caps when they should be. Unreal Engine works fine like any other version these days. If these devs aren't allowed to optimize due to external stuff. I see what you're saying. And I actually mostly agree with you. I've had that sentiment for a while now. The engine is not really the problem. It's just getting familiar with it and actually taking the most out of it, which these devs certainly have.
And Embark fucking know how to use it, because the finals is great as well. The finals plays really well in the same notion.
Yep.
And that's coming from me, who in the past like had problems with the finals because it never felt quite perfect. And then I realized there was 120 hertz mode. I turned that on and it felt fucking incredible. So yeah,
right.
Embark knows what the hell they're doing with Unreal Engine. They are really killing it. Cute Silk also says the hatch thing is funny. You wasted a key. Yeah, I did. Well, I didn't waste a key. I just left Gage behind. I just left Gage behind.
He got his from the key. No, it was me who was crawling around watching the world end, getting smoked by a fucking asteroid.
That was awesome.
What gun do you like the most? I feel like we're all kind of on the same page. We're all big Anvil enjoyers in the squad. I think for me, probably the Anvil. I did get to use a purple assault rifle. I think it's called the Tempest for very briefly. So in the full game, we'll probably have access to a lot of these higher tier weapons more frequently, and the answer will change. But for right now, for the low level stuff, I think the Anvil is probably my go-to.
You're fucking crazy. The answer. Well, I mean, sorry, you're not crazy, because the Anvil level 4 that I had was awesome, but the Arpeggio was awesome. The burst fire weapon, I love that. That was really fun to use. But Kirik, welcome in the Twitch chat. Thank you for joining us. Cute Silk also said, I feel like the Anvil made the Pharaoh completely useless. Also, the guns in this game are realistic, as in bullet drop and spread actually happens when it's supposed to happen. I'm praying they fix the field box drop glitch. I will push back a little bit on the Anvil versus Pharaoh. Like, I get what you're saying, that it's a similar utility because they both have pretty decent range, but I would say the Pharaoh is more so further long range than the Anvil. You can shoot people from far away with the Anvil, but like I feel like you kind of have to have it upgraded for it to have like that same punch that the Pharaoh has at range.
In my brain, I defaulted to using the Anvil at medium range, whereas the Pharaoh, if I had the Pharaoh and we were starting a fight, like I would feel a lot more comfortable really sniping with that thing.
Yeah.
Whereas even though the Anvil, they overlap, right? If there's a Venn diagram, there definitely is a big overlap between those two guns, but I would say that the Pharaoh still has its use, especially if you're down bad. That's the great thing with the weapon design in this game, is that a lot of these guns, really their use cases changes on how much shit you got on you, how much gear you got. If you can craft Anvil and attachments for it, then sure, you maybe won't use the Pharaoh, but the Pharaoh will hold its own against an Anvil. If you're a good player with a Pharaoh, you can really make a difference, which I think comes back to that really intentional game design with the weapon with the weapon sort of sandbox that they have going on.
Silk brings up an interesting point as well. I feel the Pharaoh doesn't have enough zoom, and the game should add sight mods. That's an interesting idea to maybe add that in the future. Although I do worry a little bit about that if they add too much of a scope to it, that it ends up becoming like a sniper fest, and I don't feel like that would be as fun. Because a lot of these maps are like very open, and if you get people that are just crack shots, just camping a building somewhere and just taking everyone out because they have a 20 times scope or whatever they have, like that may get a little bit unfun. So I feel like there might be some balance there, but I could see them adding maybe some smaller scopes. That would be interesting.
It's a really good point. A lot of these maps are very open, and yet it feels like they're not, because of the fact that there are not only is there no scopes, but there's no ADSing either, right? Like, and that's a big plus for me. I hate games that are third person, and then when you aim, they suddenly go to first person. I was very pleasantly surprised to find out that that's not how it works, even with the long range weapons. But because of that, I think intentionally that helps solve the sightline issue in a lot of these games where it's like there could be two teams at either end of the dam, and you could be aiming at bots like in between each other and just not even notice the other team because there are no sort of zoom in scopes. There's one gun that I think you got towards the end of the beta, or service lane, I should say, but I hadn't even come across that. So yeah, we'll see. I could see them adding stuff like that too. I hope that they take a good look at it first, though, and really think about how it's going to affect the map design.
For sure. Yes, for sure. Silk, completely agree. The aim settings in the game are very good. Yep. You haven't played an FPS on controller for 3 years. I became really good again. Nice. All right, Gage.
Love to see it.
One more question here. Is Arc Raiders gonna be a Game of the Year contender?
Yes. It's already Game of the Year for me.
Yeah.
It hasn't even come out yet, and it's already Game of the Year for me. So it's absolutely in the conversation for sure.
I agree. I 100% agree. I hope it doesn't get overlooked because it doesn't fulfill that stereotypical Game of the Year that people seem to go for.
You're not escorting a little kid across a treacherous landscape.
Yeah. So I hope it gets its flowers, because at least from what we played thus far, it seems like it's going to be a serious contender. Okay, and then 4 changes that they have announced now that they are making from the server slam. The first one here, they have nerfed the awareness of flying AI arc robots, as we talked about a little bit ago. A very clever fix, quote unquote fix, just balance, to kind of, I think I read that they won't discover you if you're like in some what's the word I'm looking for?
Foliage.
Bushes, foliage. Yep, exactly. So it should help quite a bit with bots chasing me down and flying and finding me immediately. Some of my complaints that I had there from earlier.
Yeah.
The robots have thermal vision. Yeah, they pretty much do. Seems like. Hopefully this tones it down a little bit. They also tuned the graphics so it will look better like in the old version that we played in the second technical test. So they were aware of the graphical changes and people's concerns with that. So it seems like they're going to make some changes back. So that's kind of cool.
Love to see it.
And then they also blocked the ability to easily jump into the dam tower, which was one of the highest loot areas in the game. So I guess there was an easy way to get in.
I was gonna say, in classic Gage fashion, I think I messaged you guys that yesterday or today, and was like, oh shit. And in my head, the reason I sent that to you is I was like, oh, I'm gonna remember this from when the game launches, and we're gonna go there and do that.
Yeah.
But they're on top of it already, unfortunately.
Yeah, they're on top of it.
But I do remember us during the weekend saying, like, why are people going to the top of the tower? That's so fucking. There's nothing up there. Well, now we were. Now we realize that you could just get into a key room for free, pretty much, which is a great reason to rush the control tower. Makes sense now.
Yep. And then they also fixed backend issues for stability, which is, of course, the main purpose of the server test. So some good stuff there. Yeah, Silk, you'll be able to hide in bushes. But they'll still be able to see your body heat. Yeah, I don't know if they have, like, in the lore, have thermal vision, but they definitely hunt you down. That's for sure. They're unapologetic. All right, that is our topic of the show this week. I'm going to try and get us through the news of the week. We're already running late, which is crazy. We talked so much about Arc Raiders. We love it. We love it. Our first news of the week item, Gage, and only, rather, Xbox is reportedly working on emulation for the ROG Xbox Ally and Windows devices. They also, this is a few stories here, all Xbox related, and then we can talk about them. Xbox also announced that dev kits are increasing in price from $1,500 to $2,000, saying the adjustment reflects macroeconomic developments. We remain committed to providing high quality tools and support for your development efforts. $500 increase is quite the increase for dev kits.
Especially for those smaller studios.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And then we also have Sarah Bond appearing to confirm the next-gen Xbox will be a hybrid PC and console. The next-gen console will be a very premium and high-end curated experience. You're starting to see some of the thinking we have in this handheld, speaking about the ROG Xbox Ally. And obviously, highlight the word premium there that she also said, seemingly confirming that the next-gen console is going to be expensive. So probably, like, I'm thinking it's probably going to be $800 or more for this next-gen console. However, it's more closer aligned to like a PC, so you'll be able to play more games, play Steam, based on what she's saying here, which is what we've thought was going to happen for a while now, but her basically confirming it here.
And I think, well, what's interesting is that Xbox is kind of positioning themselves into a little bit of a corner where I feel like if this thing comes out and it's $900, it's not only does the hardware specs have to be there, but like it's gonna have to have Steam or like an X Factor or something, right? I think right now the worst case scenario is not how expensive it is, because I think we're all on the same page. This thing is going to be expensive
For sure.
but it needs to back it up with something. And I really hope that they did get that deal nailed down with Steam. I really hope that is, because that's gonna make it all worth it for me. But for some people out there, man, if it's just another Xbox and it's just backwards compatibility, or it's just Microsoft, Windows Store. You can play the Xbox Store and some of these games that are exclusively on the Microsoft Windows Store. Nobody's gonna fucking care. It's
Right.
gotta have Steam. If it's as expensive as we're thinking it's gonna be, it's gotta have Steam.
And the emulation aspect is extremely important for their backwards compatibility, because a lot of the games that are on Xbox 360, original Xbox, that are backwards compatible, even Xbox One, a lot of those games aren't on PC, or at least not on the Xbox store on PC. So you don't own it in both places. So it would be huge to have emulation so that you can play your owned Xbox games on PC, and not have to be forced into streaming it with xCloud, because that would be miserable also, saying, well, you gotta stream your games that you own. That would be, ugh, no thank you.
Right. And I've been waiting for that for a long time. There's a lot of game like the Ghost Recon games. I would love to play those on PC with mouse and keyboard at more than 26 frames per second. So I definitely am hoping that they come up with some sort of emulation software that you can play. Not, hey, if I gotta play it on the new Xbox and only there, that's fine. But I would love for that to come to their Xbox app on PC as well.
For sure. All right, let's run over some street meets here, Gage. We have Splinter Cell Remake could be in turmoil here. Despite recent rumors pointing to a potential cancellation, the project is said to be moving forward with a potential release target set for 2026. That may not be happening, though, because there's apparently been a new job listing found that suggests that the remake is going through turmoil. Ubisoft Toronto is looking to hire a game director for Splinter Cell Remake, signaling that it has lost their previous director. Not good. Not good at all.
It feels like every other month, there's something with Ubisoft. There's just something going on. And it's crazy to think. I just mentioned wanting to play the old Ghost Recon games. It's just every now and again, it's crazy to think about where they were and where they are now. Just they're in desperate need of a Capcom-like resurgence, but I feel like every year that window is closing. That window is closing where the market cap is falling and the stock price is falling and investor confidence and shareholder confidence is falling, where it's like they are going to reach the point of no return where suddenly we come onto this podcast one week and it's going to be selling off IP to other companies. Like,
I hope not.
You guys, they gotta lock in.
Yeah. I'm hoping for a resurgence from them, but they gotta make some changes, some wholesale changes. Glenn wants me to take that back. Glenn, I'm just reporting the facts here. I can't take it back. I want to see Splinter Cell Remake as much as anybody. I love Splinter Cell. But another remake, little street meet here, Gage. Resident Evil 0 remake will reportedly release in 2028. Of course, we're getting Resident Evil Requiem next year, so that would continue the pace of a new Resident Evil every 2 years. And the lead actor from Square Enix's Guardians of the Galaxy game will be featured as well in that game. Yeah, that's exciting. That's exciting. I'm all for more remakes. Give me more remakes.
I can't pretend that I'm excited in the sense that I've played this game. I've never even heard of Resident Evil 0, although the naming structure checks out. I'm sure there's like twice as many Resident Evil games as I think there are, but they're just named different things.
Right.
I will say what's exciting about them doing this remake stuff is that I get to play Resident Evil games that I've never played before and have it be a up-to-date, fresh experience. So this is just, to me, I just kind of read this as like, oh, this is a new Resident Evil game that's going to come out that I've never played before. Cool. Sign me up.
Absolutely. I haven't played the original either, so be exciting to get something new. Okay, before we jump into the quick bites, just a quick note here. Sadly, rest in peace, because sadly, the Dead or Alive creator, Tomonobu Itagaki, passed away at just 58 years old, and tributes were coming in all across the industry. Obviously, a major influence to the entire industry. You've got Team Ninja posting, "We're deeply saddened by the passing of Team Ninja's first leader, Tomonobu Itagaki. We will carry on the philosophy and creativity that Itagaki's son began and continue to create games that many gamers will enjoy. Our deepest condolences for his loss." Of course, Team Ninja just released Ninja Gaiden 4, so they are continuing on with his legacy there. So, of course, many more people chimed in. I was going to read some of these, but we're kind of stretched for time. But Phil Spencer, Katsuhiro Harada, who's one of the big guys with Tekken, Ed Boon with NetherRealm, Sketch with Halo Studios. I almost said 343.
343.
Worked with him on their collaboration for Dead or Alive 4, I think, when Spartan was in that. So yeah, very sad to see someone go so soon. Rest in peace. But now we will go into our quick bites gauge. Glen Schofield is making calls about Dead Space 4. He's more optimistic than ever because EA is being sold and someone new could buy the IP. He thinks that the series would make a great movie or TV show adaptation. I agree with him there. That would be fucking sick to get a TV adaptation or a movie adaptation. That would be dial up the gore and the...
Yep. This is one of those IPs that is ripe for a great adaptation. Especially because there's a movie that came out that Dead Space is kind of inspired by called Event Horizon. And that movie it's a classic, but it's okay. It's got some good things about it. It's got some bad things about it. So I think Dead Space is an interesting position to kind of like come out and maybe try and do what that movie did, but a little bit better. Yeah. Which would kind of bring things full circle because the game is heavily inspired by that movie.
Silk said, "I don't like the fact that these remakes are being released at full price," referring to the Resident Evil remakes. I think it's fine as long as like they're adding substantial improvements. Like I don't like the little half-step improvements, but like I feel like Capcom has like led the industry in terms of remakes and in terms of making something that's actually worth it. In my opinion.
Yeah, Cutex Silk, if you're putting together remakes and remasters in the same category, I can see why you'd say that. But for us, when we say remake, we mean like a full. They've rebuilt the game in a new engine. There's no way to streamline that process. So I wouldn't expect them to charge anything less than full price because it's a full team's development worth of making the game. But remasters, I would agree with you. If it's just an upscale, if it's just a retexturing, then I think that's perfect $30 territory. But for a lot of these Capcom games, like Daniel said, they're pretty top tier and they're built from the ground up.
For sure. Our next quick bite, Quantic Dream has announced their first multiplayer project. They're of course the developer behind Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls, Detroit Become Human, etc. Their first multiplayer game is called Spellcasters Chronicles, and it will be a drastic departure for the studio as a free-to-play, competitive, team-based 3v3 action strategy game. My God, that's a lot of words. Set to launch in closed beta via Steam before the end of the year. So, you want to play another one of those games, beta coming at the end of the year. Our next quick bite, this is pertinent for next week. Halo's schedule has been released for HCS this weekend. Check back next week for our topic of the show, which will be about the next Halo project that they are announcing in 2 days. Exciting. And it will reportedly...
It's not Thursday?
Friday.
Oh, I thought it was Thursday. I was getting excited. Okay, it's still close. It's still close. We're good.
Yeah, 2 days away. And it will involve PlayStation 5, it sounds like, because Grunt.API, he's one of the people that's set up a big API interface between Halo's stats and the community, has data mined a little bit, and found this, and he's keeping the rest of it quiet. So I'm grateful for that. But seemingly, whatever this project is coming to PS5, is probably going to be the Halo CE remake. But we'll see. It also is interesting because this is a competitive event, so maybe that multiplayer project from Certain Affinity, maybe it actually is still real and that gets announced. Who knows? We'll see. Friday.
You think that's coming to PlayStation 5?
It could. Next week we'll find out. We'll let you know next week. We'll find out in 2 days. So
right.
All right. Our next quick bite. Sleeping Dogs has finished its script. Simu Liu has posted it on Twitter in honor of our Sleeping Dogs script draft being done. Here's my sleepy dog. He posted a picture with him and his dog, which he is, of course, starring in that movie. I hope it does well. I really enjoy the source material. So, let's see. The former God of War developer that has been commenting on the use of AI in games is Megan Morgan Juinio. I hope I didn't butcher her name. I apologize. She says, I think if we don't embrace it, I think we're selling ourselves short, said Junio, who recently vacated her role as director of product development at Santa Monica Studio after 10 years and 2 hugely successful God of War games. AI is a tool and something that will augment us, at least for right now. That's how I see it. It's going to evolve whether you're on board with it or not, so I want to be at the forefront of helping to guide how that goes and how we use it. Went on to say other things. I just found it interesting that she was seemingly more positive on the usage of it, but hopefully it doesn't get to the point where we're releasing slop for games.
I did see, I think we forgot to talk about it, and we don't have to spend a lot of time on it, but I did see Kojima finally talk about AI as well, saying that he plans to use it to expedite and for efficiencies in his development process. So it does seem like the tide is changing where, Kojima is a pretty well-respected auteur in the industry, but a few more well-respected studio heads just need to come out and make positive statements about AI, and I think we'll see the needle shift in terms of people's acceptance of it, which again will either be good or bad. I think a lot of us in this podcast had a very instinctually negative reaction to AI, and I think we had a lot of justified reasons for that. But the more I hear people say like it's here and it's not going anywhere, the more that I am kind of like coming around to like, well, that's kind of a fact of reality. Like we can not like it, and we can obviously choose in our own personal lives to prioritize art and support artists, real human artists. But it is an interesting point of conversation of like, can we really boycott every company that uses it if it is a tool that is going to be everywhere? It's like Blender. It's an essential part of the process now, and it's not going anywhere. So it's something to think about. Yeah,
that's a whole topic of the show right there.
Yeah.
Our next quick bite here. There's a new update on the way for Pikmin 4 on the Nintendo Switch. In addition to the Pikmin 4 game update, Ice Pikmin will also be making their first ever appearance in Pikmin Bloom starting on November 1st. All you Pikmin fans out there, we're happy for you coming November. Last quick bite here. Ubisoft Massive has commented on their future, writing here, as part of our ongoing evolution and long-term planning, we have recently realigned our teams and resources to strengthen our roadmap, ensuring our continued focus on the Division franchise and the technologies, including Snowdrop and Ubisoft Connect, that power our games. To support this transition responsibly, we introduced a voluntary career transition program, giving eligible team members the opportunity to take their next career step on their own terms, supported by a comprehensive package that includes financial and career assistance. Massive Entertainment remains fully committed to our roadmap and is creating great experiences for players around the world, including the Division 2, the Division 2 Survivors, the Division Resurgence, and the Division 3. These projects will continue with strength, focus, ambition, and we look forward to sharing more in the future. I put this in, this is a very interesting way to say that you're having layoffs. It's like,
Can I say something? I
Yeah.
really hate it a lot more than them just saying that they're doing
Right.
layoffs. What did they say? We're giving people career transition
Yes.
packages with financial
Yes.
support.
Yeah.
It's I really don't like. It's so
Yeah.
scummy and
Yeah.
fucking CEO speak. I really. I read this and I got more angry than I usually do at these kind of messages, just because they were so clearly trying to not say the
Yeah.
L word, even though that's exactly what's going on here.
This is
And
way
it sucks that it's
worse.
happening. Yeah, it is. It is absolutely worse, and it sucks that it's happening to Ubisoft Massive, who, like, sure, maybe I mean, obviously, Avatar game flopped hard for sure. The Division games, I would argue, have done like okay. I don't think they've done negative. I don't think they've done gangbusters. But Massive has contributed so much with the development of the Snowdrop engine, which is maybe the most impressive thing that Ubisoft has done in the last decade. Is just making that engine. So it kind of sucks to see Massive kind of getting shafted like this, where it seems like Ubisoft has maybe thought to themselves, well, they've done the really useful thing for us, which is give us this engine, so let's scale back on them. That kind of sucks. I don't like that at all. But then again, I don't think most layoffs for any reason are justified. But
No. Yeah, absolutely not. Yeah. Complete corpo speak. It's insane.
yeah.
All right, let's move into fantasy draft check-in here. A quick check-in on our fantasy teams. Do we have any new pickups this week? No, we do not. No new pickups, despite some teams still having some pickup slots available, including Gage's team. Better pick up your games. But we did have some updates here, one of which is Ninja Gaiden 4, which is, of course, on Christian's team. It released to an 82 on OpenCritic for 12 points for Christian. Christian has double digits for every one of his games except for one. That's crazy. So 12 more points tacked on for Christian. And then we also had Pokemon Legends Z to A release as well for Ro's team, which also got an 82 on OpenCritic, giving him 12 points as well. A lot of people I've seen talking very highly about both of those games. Also, Dispatch, the first episode just released for my team. They don't have reviews ready yet, but the first episode's out there, and I've seen a lot of people praising it out there, including, I think, Ro even played it as well. I saw him post about it. So very excited to see the rest of those episodes come out over the next few weeks and see how the episodic release goes for that game. But very, very cool. So currently, Christian's still in first with 192 points right now, and he has 12 games released. I am in second with 149 games, 149 points and 12 games released as well. Gage is in third with 10 games released at 122 points. Ro is right on his fucking heels, 112 points with 9 games released. Things are getting interesting.
Get off my heels, Ro.
So Dispatch just released today, the first episode, so we'll have more on that next week, possibly. The Outer Worlds 2 comes out next Wednesday, but early access starts this Friday, so I imagine we'll probably have reviews for that game next week for Gage's team and my counter pick, which I'm super pissed about because I'm a dumbass and thought that it was delayed and all that whole deal that you guys have heard 100 times. I love that game. I don't want to be smeared and said that people saying, oh, it's in your counter picks, you must hate this game. No. The first game is my game of the year of 2019. I'm super fucking excited for this game next week. Very happy about it. And actually, it comes out Friday for early access, so I'll probably be playing it this weekend. And then Arc Raiders, of course, releases the day after the Outer Worlds 2 on the 30th. Insane lineup. And then the same day, we also have Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D Remake. Of course, Arc Raiders is on my team because I was the only one that believed in it. Dragon Quest is on Ro's team. And then we'll jump into November releases next week. Did you have any more for what you got for me, Gage, other than Arc Raiders? That's the only thing I had.
I think that might be the actual only video game I played last weekend.
Hell yeah.
So
Hell yeah. That's what we like.
I'm right there with you.
That's what we like to hear. And we're exiting in perfect time. And thank you to everyone who has been joining us live on YouTube and Twitch, as well as podcast services everywhere, including Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, and everywhere else you get your podcast. Thank you, Gage. Thank you to everyone in the chat, including Kirik, Cute Silk, and Glenn, everybody who joined us. Thank you very much. I am Daniel, and this has been Podcast PXN, and we are out. Much love, and keep on gaming.
I'll see you in Speranza.
You see me running away from drones in Speranza and screaming my head off. There's fucking drones behind me again!
Oh, fuck off!
That's awesome.